We hear the hate and lies coming from the non-affirming church about things like drag queen story time, transgender bathroom laws, I could go on, all disguised in this we care about the children bullshit. Just to be clear, it has nothing to do with children. Kids are being used in a transparent attempt to hide hate and bigotry, period. So what are the real threats to children? What does cause real damage to kids? You know what it is? The pop Christian gospel. Today, we're going to give you 8 ways that the pop Christian gospel damages children.
Would it be okay if I were to tell you that I am afraid someday? So I call you up and you call me down. Would it be okay?
Hello and welcome to the FreedHearts podcast. We're so glad you're here. My name is Robert Cottrell and I'm here as always with
Susan Cottrell.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. We're just going to talk way up there today.
Maybe not.
Maybe not. Okay. Okay, we won't. We'll bring it back down here. Again, thanks for being here with us. Please support us if you can. Like your local NPR station, we are a listener-supported organization. We don't have any sponsors on this podcast by design, no ads, and you're welcome for that. But all we do is possible only through the kindness of people like you. So if you can support us, please do. You can find all the information on that at freedhearts.org. And that is the place where you could connect with us and everything we have to offer as well. www, which stands for World Wide Web, if you didn't know. freedhearts.org. Okay, well, we hear a lot. We talk a lot about hate and lies and propaganda coming from the non-affirming church, about things like drag queen story time and transgender bathroom laws. And, I could go on and on and on. And all of this often is disguised in, we care about the children. We have to protect the children. Bullshit. We are calling it for what it is there. So thanks for listening today. We'll talk to you. Just to be clear, that kind of argument has nothing to do with children.
Nope.
Kids are being used in a transparent attempt to hide hate and bigotry and a lot of other nasty things, period. So, what are the real threats to children? What does do legitimate damage to kids? You want to know? The pop Christian gospel. Bam. First, what is the pop Christian gospel? What do we mean? You know this. It's one that's focused on image and production and fancy taglines and really hip websites and phrases and coffee shops and Krispy Kremes. I guess that wouldn't be pop Christian. That would be more like vegan snacks.
Young pastors and cool jeans, whatever.
Skinny jeans, right. and they talk all about community, but it's not real community because it's conditional community based on rules and acceptance.
Yes.
As an example of that, one of our kids used to attend a church just like this in Chicago and was kicked off the worship team. They were shunned, rejected, shamed, isolated, condemned, made to feel guilty,
because
defensive.
You know what they did?
Yeah, right. You know what they did?
Slept with their girlfriend.
That's right. And their fiance, actually.
Now wife.
And all this.
You're welcome, son. Yes. Throwing you out under the bus.
Well, leaders and pastors at the same church were doing the same and much worse. And you know what? It's really easy to keep the focus off of you when you keep the focus on judging others.
And they even said to him, well, people don't know about what we're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, again, image.
Yeah. Image above all else.
Image above all else. So,
right.
And you've seen things about that with groups like Hillsongs and others like that. That's the pop Christian kind of church. And there are core messages. This is not just surface stuff here. There are core messages given at these rules-based, behavior-focused, non-affirming, pop Christian box churches that are really, really dangerous for kids, for youth, and for all of us.
For all of us.
The child in each of us that often struggles with wondering whether or not we are worthy, whether or not we are lovable.
Yes.
So let's do this today. This was inspired by our dear friend Jim Palmer. We love Jim. You know that.
Can we say, shout out to Jim?
Yeah.
Brilliant stuff that he writes.
Oh my gosh. Amazing.
It's really good. So look him up if you haven't. Okay.
So we want to give you 8 ways that the pop Christian gospel damages children. 8 messages, 8 ways. So I'll tell you what, I'll read them 1 through 8, right?
Yep.
And on each one, if you have a comment, you can make a comment. Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
Great.
Number one. Telling children that they are born into this world intrinsically bad, absent of inherent worth, and repulsive to God.
What a message. What a message. Like, forget about, that you are created in the image of God. That's where we should be majoring, is we're created in the image of God. Instead, they've trumped up this thing about the fall of humanity.
Right, born sinner.
And you're born sinner.
So that's the message you give children. Hey, welcome to the world, Timmy. Guess what? God doesn't really like you very much at all. You're repulsive to God. You're really bad at the core, but we'll give you some ways out of that later.
Right.
Thanks, Mom. Thanks, Dad. Okay.
Oh.
All right. Number 2, teaching children that their sinfulness is so bad that it left God no choice but to brutalize, torture, and kill his son.
Okay.
Let's just take a breath here.
Yeah.
Because sometimes we gloss over these Jesus died on the cross for you, and we gloss over that, but that's
Aren't
the
you
message.
Grateful? Yeah.
Your sin is so bad that God had no choice, young child, but to brutalize, torture, and kill his child.
Yeah. And even small children can see through that. It doesn't make sense. We just kind of force them to fit it to make sense. But if you're so bad that your dad has to take your mom out and shoot her instead of punishing you, it's like, okay, that's a heavy burden for me. I didn't really mean that, and it doesn't make sense. It doesn't even make sense. What kind of psychopath is that? And the only thing you can do with that is shame. It's the only possible response, shame and self-hatred.
And we never talk about that. We talk about, in the evangelical church, there's a lot of talk about being grateful for that.
For God shooting Jesus in the head.
But that... Okay.
It's true.
It's going to be one of those episodes. But we never talk about how that makes, besides maybe grateful, damn shame horrified and guilty.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Number 3. And this is one that we take with us. All of these things, again, starts with the kids. We hear them as kids if we're in the church long, but this is the same message given to adults as well. So number 3 is convincing children that there's nothing good inside of them and that they should not trust their thoughts and feelings.
Well, doesn't the Bible say that?
Well,
no.
That's right. No, it doesn't say that.
That's all of that is read into the Bible, but it does say that we're created in God's image, that God's blueprint is inside each one of us.
Let's back up for just a second and talk about where that passage, and you've heard this before if you're a listener, but it's that passage that your heart is deceitful and, but that's not what that's
deceitful
not
and wicked. Who could know it? But it's the true sorry, I'm jumping.
No, go ahead.
The true translation is your heart is deep. Who can know it? Well,
just a little different.
Yeah, all the difference in the world. Thank you very much.
So
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So you were saying that's
God's
blueprint.
God's image is a blueprint inside each one of us. And how would it change humanity if we grew up believing we're a chip off the old block instead of a worm that God wants nothing to do with? And by the way, that's what Mary Daly meant when she said, if God is male, then males are God. That if God is straight white male, just look at all the pictures. Then women and Black people and LGBTQ people and other people of color are not God. And even straight white males who may get their heads around being in God's image, they must deep down think, this isn't right. I'm in God's image, but my wife is not, my daughters are not. There's a subconscious shame and guilt underneath all of it when some of us look like the pictures of God that we see. Think Sistine Chapel. And the rest of us aren't. That doesn't make sense.
And again, to teach children the message to all of us that we can't trust our thoughts and feelings goes directly against what Jesus said, and that's that the Spirit will lead us in all truth. Jesus also said, I have more to tell you that you're not ready for yet.
Yep.
And I will tell you that by sending the Spirit who will reveal things to you. That's your thoughts
not
and
the
your
pastor.
feelings. Right? Not the written word.
Not the New Testament, which wasn't written yet at the time.
Right. With about 15,000, the oldest version we have of the printed or the written Bible has about 15,000 differences from the King James Version, just saying. So it's that, yes, you can. And imagine to child, yes, child, you can. There's so much good in you that you can trust your heart. Follow your heart. Follow your heart. Trust your instinct. Trust your gut. So,
what you believe about yourself, you become more of that thing. And when you believe you're defective and a worm, you try to go against it, but it's what you believe. You become more and more convinced of that.
Yep.
Okay.
Number 4, using fear and shame as a means of binding children to certain beliefs or practices related to God. Kind of like, believe this, do this, or else.
Yes.
So using fear and shame as a means of binding children to certain beliefs or practices related to God.
And we are so used to fear as a driving force of Christianity that we don't even see it. And I want to tell you this watershed moment that occurred for me in seminary. And it was a story about Paul Tillich, a modern giant theologian. And he and Billy Graham were contemporaries. They met, they became friends. And Tillich thought, I wonder what these crusades are that he does. I'm going to go see one. He was aghast to see that the foundation of Billy Graham's message was fear. And if you ever saw one of those crusades, you know it is fear. Fear of going wrong, fear of God's wrath, fear of hell. This is the God of love. And Billy Graham and he's one of the good ones. Billy Graham, so to speak. Billy Graham is teaching people to be afraid of this God of love. And I remember hearing that story about Paul Tillich and thinking, oh my gosh. And is using fear even wrong? That's how steeped I was. This was at the very beginning of seminary. Because when you're in it, you're just so used to the message of fear. But the farther from that theology you get, the clearer it is that, yes, fear-based theology is false theology. And it is everywhere.
Say that again. Fear-based theology is false theology.
Yes. And it is everywhere. Fear is the opposite of love, and God is love. And anyway, so yes. And also, Charles Templeton, I read this when I was looking up the Billy Graham crusades. He was a dynamic young preacher who at one point was even more prominent than Billy Graham. And in 1946, the National Association of Evangelicals listed him as among those best used of God.
Well, I think he got a trophy for that.
I think he got a trophy. He's going to take it with him to heaven. I think there's a special permit for that trophy to go to heaven.
Sorry, we're kind of in a mocking mood with this one, so we don't mean to be.
Are we?
Aren't we always? No.
We're mocking the lies that are damaging people.
Let's back up a bit. That was these 8 things are really doing damage to kids, and we're trying to expand on this.
We're trying to show you how ridiculous they are.
I don't mean to mock some. Okay, I'll
you
go
do.
back.
It's good.
Okay, all right, go ahead, sweetheart.
All right. Okay, so this guy, Charles Templeton, best used of God, eventually rejected his faith, and he wrote, I oppose the Christian church because for all the good it sometimes does, it presumes to speak in the name of God and to propound and advocate beliefs that are outdated, demonstrably untrue, and often in their various manifestations, deleterious to individuals and to society.
Wow.
Wow.
That was written maybe 70 years ago,
Yeah.
60, 70 years ago. That could have been written yesterday.
Can I read that again?
Sure, please.
I oppose the Christian church because for all the good it sometimes does, it presumes to speak in the name of God and to propound and advocate beliefs that are outdated, demonstrably untrue, and often in their various manifestations, deleterious, harmful to individuals and to society.
Wow. Yeah.
And we always say, if you're going to speak for God, you'd better be speaking love. And we don't mean love, but we mean love, period.
Yep.
Yep. So,
all right, let's go on. Number
Mic
five. Number five. Number 5 is instructing children that God satisfies his holiness by sending the majority of humankind to eternal conscious torment in hell.
Yeah. It's more like God satisfies his bloodlust, like a vampire who can't get enough blood. Okay.
We're going to do a whole podcast, maybe a few episodes
God's bloodlust
on vampires, on hell. And in fact, if you want to go to our YouTube channel, you did a whole amazing 7-part video series on that. And if you're on YouTube, just look at the @ symbol at FreedHearts, and it'll come right up. So, number 6, instilling in children a dehumanizing and objectifying view of people deemed as non-believers. Boy,
wow.
We've done 2 episodes on the teaching of contempt, us versus them. And that starts really early with believers, non-believers in what we teach and say to children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it discourages conversation and wonder and seeing the image of God in another. But only, do you fit in the box my church tradition has created for you? If no, then you're dead to me.
It's hard because we talked about this. When you're in that box, when you're in that bubble, we know we were there, beloved, for over 20 years.
Yeah.
And you look around and everybody looks, or most people look the same. People are saying the same things. People are watching the same channels. People are listening to the same radio programs. Everybody loves Focus on the Family. You know, it's hard. It's hard sometimes to think, well, isn't that the norm? And that's why the church seals that box so tight.
Yes.
Because once you open that box, all heaven breaks loose.
Yes.
You start to see the truth about what's going on inside and the beauty of what's going on outside.
Yeah. It's like you open the box, a little light in, and then all the sleight of hand is exposed.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, you were saying?
Yeah. Well, so instead of encouraging wonder in other people and discovering who they are, it encourages us to say, well, do you fit in the box my church tradition has created for you? If not, then you're dead to me. And you may be a project for a little while, but unless you come around and pretty quickly, you're dead to me. And if yes, you fit in the church box, then good, we can both be in the club. As long as you don't do anything heretical like disagree with my church's position, in which case you're dead to me. So it makes people more and more separate from others that we are one with in the world, and more isolated, and then there's smaller groups, and you better not upset it or else you're out on your own.
You know, when you see that, we see this early on, even in like mission trips and, you know, things like that, where you send an entire group of white people to another part of the world and basically are saying those people who look different than you, these unbelievers, they need to hear what you have to say to them.
Your gospel.
Yeah, your gospel here. And it immediately sets that up where, well, and I mean, to stop people on the street and read them a tract of the 4 laws. I mean, oh my gosh, this is just so much the teaching of contempt. And it starts that us versus them mentality so early in kids, and it does horrendous damage.
Yeah.
Okay, number 7, yeah?
Yes.
Number 7. Implying that asking questions, critical thinking, nonconformity, and the use of reason is a lack of faith and a sign of carnality.
Which is sin. So you set them against their own creativity, their critical thinking, their own sense of wonder, all the things that God gave them, like sexuality. You've got it. It's wonderful, but you can't touch it. That's basically what they're teaching.
Yeah, and it sets people up again. You can't question anything, and the church's response to that, like it was with us, like I know it was with so many of you listening, that the church's response is the moment that you question something, things like you're a heretic come out, those kind of big scary words, and people are reminded that that you may be of the devil, and they're to keep their distance from you and run with their ears over or the hands over their ears and over their eyes. Run, because it's too threatening to the church system.
Yeah, and where they could view you as a prophet to follow, instead they view you as a fallen prophet.
Yeah, so kids don't ask questions, don't think critically, conform.
Yeah, and Franklin Graham, a chip off the old block that's rolled quite a bit away, he actually said, if you question me, you question the Bible. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? No, he's not kidding. So
that's the heavy-handed response they have to any questions, any threats. So,
yes.
Okay. One more. The number 8.
Oh, good. It's a fun one, I think.
It's a fun one. Yeah. This may be triggering to a few of you out there.
Not really fun.
Yeah. Enforcement of purity culture, which corrupts and sabotages the development of a healthy and responsible sexuality and relationships.
Wow.
So there's this teaching of the purity culture, the purity ring.
Oh my gosh.
The promise ring that just corrupts and destroys and sabotages the healthy development of sexuality and relationships.
Yeah, I mean, these things fracture our inmost being, all that stuff you just said, setting us at odds with who we were designed to be. All the wonderful things that were factory installed in us, the pop Christian gospel conditions us to fear and disdain. That's that whole trope of modest is hottest. And I've heard people say, what's wrong with modest and hottest is hottest? Well, they're saying, of course we want our girls to be modest. What's wrong with that? And thinking it will protect them. Well, what's wrong is, for one, it's aimed at girls. The purity culture is aimed at girls and women, and it shames them for their sexuality. It puts responsibility of sexuality and abuse and rape on females. Mm-hmm. We may pretend that purity culture is aimed at males and females, but it's not.
Not really. No, that's right.
No,
that's
there's a certain wink of boys will be boys. There's not an equivalent of girls will be girls. It's just different. Girls are responsible to not elicit thoughts in boys.
And just look at young adults. If you meet someone, if you talk, just I know that this is in the culture. I know you know this, but you meet a young man and he's had several sexual partners in the past. Well, he's a man. Can't help that. You meet a girl that's had several sexual partners in the past,
or a woman.
Yeah, or a woman, and she's a slut.
Right.
It's just it's ridiculous. But
I saw a meme about that. It said, if a girl has sex with 10 guys, what do we call her? A slut. If a guy does that, what do we call him? Gay. He's gay. If he has sex with 10 guys, he's gay. Okay. That was my joke.
We've talked about this before. You are not the joke person.
Hey.
Okay, I'm just kidding. But you know what? It's like, how could this have come? Well, just a little reminder, who wrote the rules?
Right.
Men.
Right.
Okay, so this is really convenient for them. Again,
many of them priests, single celibate, in quote, air quotes, priests.
Look at the woman caught, in
forgiven for adultery.
Yeah, forgiven for adultery. Where was the man in that? Where was his guilt in that? Yeah. Nowhere. So anyway, it goes back a long way. So,
Yeah, and there's a lot of recovery needed from sexual shame. We've talked to a lot of people who, have been immersed in that purity culture. Like a woman I know who waited for marriage as required. And when she did marry.
Wait. As requested.
As requested. Okay.
Yeah. No. I'm saying that as not really required by God, but as told.
No,
as requested. By the
church.
Yeah, right. As requested by the church.
By the church.
And when she did marry, what happened?
And when she did marry in her 40s, she really struggled to have sexual feelings again, because you turn that stuff off all those years. You make yourself turn it off. You don't just flip a switch to get it back on again.
And for youth, for young adults, a lot of them get married just so they can have sex.
We've talked to countless numbers of them, honestly.
And that really ends up turning out
going
well.
great.
So.
Yeah.
Didn't you read something from Emma Thompson?
I wanted to tell, yes, I told you I wanted to tell this about Emma Thompson in a recent New Yorker interview. And she said her mother took her to the most extraordinary gynecologist, she said, and who was in her 90s, who sat in front of me in this office, she said. And she said, what do you think the birth control pill was invented for? And Emma said, to stop people from having babies. And this gynecologist in her 90 said, no, that's not the answer I'm looking for. Try again. Emma said, I don't know. Does it do something else? And she said, yes, it allows people to have sex for joy and pleasure. And Emma said in this interview, that's a 90-year-old woman speaking to a 15-year-old girl. That's incredible. Like, what a wonderful thing to tell somebody.
Yeah.
And I remember one of my mentor said, yeah, people just want birth control so they can have sex without the consequences. Like, yeah, they want sex without having a baby. Yeah, well, that's fair.
Or when you're taught that's shameful, when that's not natural, it goes against how we are all wired, beloved. We know that. All right, so there are 8 things there, 8 teachings, 8 things that we tell kids, youth, and that bleeds right over in what we teach to all of us adults who are in that non-affirming, behavior-focused, ultra rules-based box church that do real damage. And it starts young, and it goes against the core message that you are beautiful as you are, that you are beloved as you are, that I gave you the things you're feeling. Trust your heart. You're all good with me. Yes. Don't be afraid. I love you.
Yes.
Recently, and the church is trying really hard, this pop Christian church is trying really hard to switch its image around.
Yeah. They do have an image problem. Yeah,
and to do and sound like they're
because they have a theology problem.
Well,
excuse me.
Yeah, to do or sound like they're relevant or like they're something real when they're not. And you saw this a few weeks ago during the Super Bowl with those ads, those He Gets Us ads, and it's like $20 million or millions of dollars spent by an organization who is, by the way, headed up by the Hobby Lobby CEO, who has spent millions more fighting against basic LGBTQ plus rights. Well, those ads really fell flat and were poorly received, and you probably saw the social media posts about them. And because, let's just be honest, the hypocrisy just oozes out of these things.
Yes.
So it said, He gets us. Well, yes, conservative, non-affirming, rule-based Christians, Jesus gets us. The problem is, you don't get him.
Yeah, you don't get us, you don't get him.
Your children are beloved. Make sure you know that. Make sure they know that. And you are beloved. Make sure you know that. We will talk to you next time. We love you.
We love you. Bye.
Bye.
Would it be okay if I were to tell you that I am afraid someday? So I call you up and you call me down. Would it be okay?
You've been listening to the FreedHearts podcast. We have extensive resources and vibrant community for you at www.freedhearts.org. Just come say hello. And if you have questions or issues or comments about the podcast, things you'd like us to talk about, reach out to us at podcast@freedhearts.org. The music is provided by Hannah Cottrell, our daughter, the Grammy-nominated Saint Sinner, and you can find out more about her at HeySaintSinner.com. Please share this, subscribe, and follow on your favorite platform, and thanks for listening.